The Man with the Yin-Yang Eyes. Season 3. Episode 20. Having just escaped from the horrible snake nest, we were chased by two giant snakes. Once again, Big D and I had to run for our lives without knowing how long we would have to run. While running like that, I still had time to see the snake's eyes. I immediately shouted to Big D, "Hey, do you see anything unusual in that snake's eye? It's not normal at all." As I said, Big D also immediately turned around and took a closer look. True to what I saw, the snake's eye that was chasing us was very unusual. It was white and lifeless. Ordinarily, this snake would have been blind. Yet, they can still move very quickly. Seeing these manifestations of the snake, I began to have initial judgments. I immediately said to Big D, "I've been watching these snakes quite closely. It doesn't seem like this is their nature. Someone is manipulating the snakes' minds for their own purposes. Now the only way to awaken the souls of the snakes is to get rid of this clinging." Hearing what I just said, Big D was amazed. Soon, from the original two snakes, we were now surrounded by four snakes. Looking into their eyes, I knew they were all controlled. Although I can solve this problem, I have only done it on humans, never tried it with animals. In addition, these snakes are highly aggressive, much more challenging to approach than humans. While surrounded by snakes, Big D and I realized that they seemed to be deliberately forcing us into a trail. Although he did not know where this road led, Big D ran in that direction. Big D moved so fast that I didn't have time to stop him. If it was confirmed that these snakes were being controlled, it wouldn't be challenging to realize that this road was a trap. The snakes deliberately forced us to run here on purpose. But despite my screams, Big D still kept running. With no other choice, I had to run after Big D. There's one thing that confirms my thinking. That is, as soon as the two of us ran this way, the snakes were no longer chasing us hard. After running for a while, we came to an ancient building. At first glance, it looked like an abandoned ancient temple. When running near, Big D shouted happily. He had discovered the door. Without hesitation, Big D rushed into that door. Feeling more and more unstable, I spoke up to stop Big D but failed. Big D said that I was too suspicious. Now getting rid of snakes is the most crucial goal. Everything else comes later. After running through the tunnel, space suddenly opened up before our eyes. When I first ran in, I didn't notice the size of this building, but when I went inside, I noticed how large it was. We both looked around at this strange building, and after observing for a while, Big D was the first to speak up. "Hey, do you have any impressions of this? I don't like the feeling here at all." Having the same feeling as Big D, I answered him. "Me too. Looking at this place reminds me of the stadium of ancient Rome. I wonder who could build such a prominent structure in the forest." Being in the profession, at first glance, Big D can also guess that out of the four doors here, only one can escape. Big D immediately said to me, "In terms of feng shui, you are better than me. You quickly calculate which door is the door of birth. Quickly find it and get out of here. I don't want to be here anymore." Exactly, feng shui is not my strong point. Although I was taught by my master, I ignored it. What I'm interested in is dealing with spirits. So now, looking at the doors in front of me makes me a little confused. Looking at me struggling forever, I still can't find birth. Big D next to me started to feel impatient. He kept nagging at me. "Hey kid, it's not like my senior brother didn't teach you feng shui. Why is there only one door that I can't find? At the end, which door is it? Hurry up, the snakes are here." After a while of calculating, I realized the layout of feng shui here is beyond my understanding. Without wasting any more time, I had to close my eyes and choose a door to escape. Seeing me act so recklessly, Big D also had no choice but to run after me. But I had only run less than 10 steps. I had to stop. Big D in the back did not anticipate this and crashed into my back. Still angry because of the feng shui incident, now it crashed into my back, making Big D's nose almost flatten. He immediately grumbled, "Damn, it hurts. What's wrong with you today? It's not like your usual self at all." And this is the reason why I stopped so suddenly. Right at the door that I chose, a snake was slowly crawling out. Fortunately, it crawled early. If a little later when we were inside the door, with the doorway's narrowness, I don't know how Big D and I can avoid the snake's attack. Although the first choice was unlucky, but it also means that the probability of the next door will increase. Big D understands this and takes action immediately. This time, he didn't let me choose anymore, but he chose the door for himself and rushed towards it. But luck seems to be the only thing we don't have today. The door that Big D has just chosen also has a snake slowly crawling out. Very quickly, the two snakes approached, cornering us in the middle of the arena. As I stepped back from Big D and asked me what to do to deal with this situation, I honestly didn't know how to answer Big D anymore. At this point, the only way left is to end the domination that controls the snakes. I immediately told Big D my plan. "Now help me buy some time. I will use Cinnabar to form a magic circle, thereby cutting off the control of the snakes." There was no other possible solution, so Big D immediately agreed with my opinion. Picking up the bag in Big D's hand, I searched for the box containing the Cinnabar but couldn't find it, so I asked Big D if he had forgotten to bring it. Hearing my question, Big D showed a proud smile and said, "You really are out of date. Did you forget that I am a master at making magical tools? I've improved the canister into a spray bottle. Let's try it out." Admittedly, the magic items that Big D made and improved are very effective and work exceptionally well. Since meeting Big D, there have been many complex cases, but we can still get through thanks to such things. This time, Big D's Cinnabar spray works very effectively, faster, and more conveniently than sprinkling powder many times. While I tried to complete the magic circle as quickly as possible, Big D did not hesitate to approach the snake. After a few shakes, Big D easily dodged the snake's attack and prepared to attack again. Although knowing that the skin of this snake is extremely thick, the shotgun bullets, if not close enough, can't do anything to it, but Big D still tried to cut the snake. His goal is not to hurt the snake but to make it pay attention to him. Because of this action, the snake became more aggressive. While dodging its head to avoid Big D's next slash, the snake used its tail to swat towards Big D. Big D's body was thrown like a ball. Fortunately, I caught him in time. Body aching, Big D raised his grimace to me to inquire about the state of the magic circle I was drawing. I immediately comforted Big D. Thanks to him, I completed the circle, now just waiting for the snakes to come to see if my calculation is correct or not. At this point in the arena area, there are not only 2 snakes but 4 snakes. Me and Big D immediately retreated inside the magic circle I had just finished drawing. This moment is really thrilling. Neither Big D nor I are sure if this measure will work or not. If we fail, what we both lose in this bet is our lives. To the snakes, this Cinnabar circle did not frighten them. All 4 snakes slowly approached us. They seemed to be enjoying the satisfaction of finishing off their prey. Realizing that the time had come, I immediately put 2 fingers together and recited the incantation. Immediately, a seal was created by me. Since my confrontation with Sagat, I have made significant progress in mastering the seal, so now it only takes me a few seconds to complete what used to take me a minute. Immediately the seal took effect. A golden circle covered the heads of the 4 snakes. Success or failure can only be tried once. If we fail, there will be no chance for us to do it again, even just once.